How can a country that is considered a paradise become one of the most desperate places in the world? Every year, thousands of talented young people are leaving New Zealand, a country hailed as the ideal place to live, to move to places where they feel the future holds more promise. So, what is really happening in New Zealand that makes so many people feel like their future no longer lies in their own homeland? New Zealand is often described as heaven on earth, with its pristine air, lush landscapes, and a high standard of living. It truly seems like the perfect place to live. But beneath this flawless image lies a shocking truth. A truth that even the locals can no longer ignore. Despite its seemingly perfect environment, New Zealand has become a country in crisis. The very things that made it a paradise have also made it a place of economic stagnation. New Zealand's small population of just over 5 million people is a key factor in its struggles. This tiny market size makes it nearly impossible to compete with larger economies. Even its agriculture, once a major strength, is now limited by global market forces that demand higher production at lower costs. While the country produces high-quality agricultural goods, modern farming technologies and automation have reduced the number of jobs available in this sector. The real estate market, meanwhile, has become the heart of New Zealand's economy, with nearly half of the country's economic output linked to housing. As a result, property prices have skyrocketed, leaving many young people trapped in a cycle of poverty, unable to afford homes, despite having well-paying jobs in professional fields. So, the question remains, how did a country that once seemed to offer everything fall into this cycle of economic isolation and despair? And what can be done to reverse this trend before it's too late? New Zealand's struggles are not just due to its geographic isolation or small market. They are also a result of significant policy decisions that have shaped the country's economy. In the 1980 seconds, New Zealand made a bold choice. It abandoned its protectionist policies in favor of economic liberalization. This shift, known as Rojanomics, after the finance minister at the time, led to short-term economic growth and price stability. But it came at a steep price. One of the unintended consequences was the over-reliance on the real estate market. Policies that favored property investment, such as tax breaks on mortgage interest and capital gains, fueled a property boom, but it did little to create sustainable jobs in industries that could build long-term wealth. In fact, real estate became so dominant that it overshadowed every other sector. With wages stagnating and housing prices soaring, young people in New Zealand found themselves at a crossroads. Stay in a country with beautiful landscapes and a safe society, but with limited career opportunities, or leave for Australia, where higher wages and more diverse industries offer them a better future. So, how did New Zealand's government let this happen? Was there a clear plan to balance economic growth with the needs of the population? And can the damage done by these policies be undone? Or are they now too deeply entrenched in the economy to reverse? The decision to leave New Zealand for a better future across the Tasman Sea has never been easier, thanks to a unique agreement between New Zealand and Australia. This special arrangement allows citizens to move freely between the two countries, creating a one-way pipeline for New Zealand's most talented and educated citizens. Every year, thousands of young professionals are packing their bags and heading to Australia, where the job market is more vibrant and opportunities for advancement seem endless. What makes this even more troubling is that many of these migrants are in their 20s and 30s. The very people who are supposed to be the future of the country. Doctors, engineers, teachers, and even IT professionals are leaving, seeking a life where their hard work will be more than just a survival tactic. It will be a path to prosperity. The economic incentive is obvious. In Australia, these young people can expect higher salaries, more career opportunities, and better access to professional development. The standard of living is just as high, but with far fewer obstacles in their way. Meanwhile, in New Zealand, many of these same professionals struggle with sky-high housing costs and a lack of industry diversity. But a real question is this: why are so many of New Zealand's brightest minds willing to leave behind everything they know? Is it really just about money? Or is there something deeper at play? Could New Zealand's government have done more to keep its best and brightest from fleeing to greener pastures? The mass exodus of young talent has not only devastated New Zealand's economy, but also led to a shift in its social fabric. With fewer young people remaining, the country faces the looming threat of a rapidly aging population. The consequences of this demographic shift are already being felt, with critical sectors like healthcare and education struggling to keep up. In the medical field, for example, The shortage of doctors and nurses has reached a crisis point. Emergency room waiting times have soared to more than 6 hours, and elective surgeries are being delayed by months. The situation is equally dire in schools, where teacher shortages have forced many classes to be consolidated, leaving students with fewer opportunities for individualized instruction. The government has attempted to mitigate these shortages by bringing in foreign workers, particularly from the Philippines and India. But this fix is only temporary, and many of these workers eventually leave for Australia, where they can earn more and have better career prospects. As a result, New Zealand faces a paradox. The country is bringing in more immigrants, but the workforce crisis continues to worsen. With fewer skilled professionals staying in the country, New Zealand is left to rely on temporary solutions rather than addressing the root causes of its brain drain. So, how long can New Zealand continue to fill these gaps with foreign labor? Is this sustainable? Or is the country heading toward a future where its most basic services, from healthcare to education, are no longer able to function properly? Despite a dire situation, New Zealand is not without hope. In recent years, the government has started implementing policies aimed at reversing the trends of the past few decades. One of the most notable developments is the push to embrace remote work and attract digital nomads to the country. The pandemic, which forced the world to adapt to remote work, has opened up new opportunities for New Zealand to tap into a global talent pool. In 2021, New Zealand launched a digital nomad visa, allowing highly skilled professionals to live and work remotely in the country. The visa program quickly gained attention, with tech entrepreneurs, freelancers, and creative professionals flocking to New Zealand, drawn by its clean environment and high quality of life. This initiative represents a significant shift in how New Zealand is approaching its economic challenges. By diversifying its economy and promoting industries that can thrive in a globalized, digital world, New Zealand is attempting to reframe its image as a place for innovation and opportunity. But are these efforts enough to stem the tide of talent leaving the country? Can New Zealand truly transition from an economy that relies on agriculture and real estate to one that is based on technology and innovation? The road ahead is uncertain, but the government's efforts to create a new, more sustainable economic model are promising. Will these changes be enough to reverse the country's brain drain? Or is it too little, too late? New Zealand's future depends on how quickly it can adapt to these new realities and create a system that benefits both its people and its economy. New Zealand's situation offers a cautionary tale for other nations facing similar challenges. While the country's geographic isolation and small population are unique, the underlying issues over-reliance on certain industries, brain drain, and demographic shifts are common across many developed nations. Ireland and Singapore, for example, have faced similar economic struggles, but found ways to reinvent themselves through strategic policy decisions and global integration. Ireland, once seen as a poor agricultural economy, turned things around in the 1990 seconds by slashing corporate tax rates to attract international businesses. This strategy brought global giants like Microsoft, Google, and Apple to set up shop in Ireland, creating thousands of high-paying jobs and transforming the country's economy. Today, Ireland boasts a higher GDP per capita than New Zealand, and more importantly, it has stopped the outflow of young talent. Singapore offers another example of a small country leveraging its geographic position to build a competitive advantage. Through investment in education, infrastructure, and innovation, Singapore became a global financial hub. By attracting top talent and fostering a robust economy, Singapore has become one of the most prosperous nations in the world. New Zealand, on the other hand, has yet to fully embrace the lessons of these countries. The reliance on real estate and tourism, coupled with a lack of innovation in key sectors, has placed the country in a precarious position. But it's not too late for New Zealand to rethink its strategies. Could New Zealand learn from Ireland and Singapore's successes and pivot toward a future built on technology, innovation, and global engagement? The question remains, what can New Zealand do now to reverse its fortunes and ensure that its future is not defined by what it has lost, but by what it can still achieve? New Zealand stands at a crossroads. The country's picturesque landscapes and high quality of life are no longer enough to prevent its economic decline. With a rapidly aging population, a struggling workforce, and an over-reliance on the real estate market, New Zealand faces an uncertain future. However, there are glimmers of hope. The government's efforts to attract digital nomads and promote innovation through technology and sustainability are steps in the right direction. New industries are beginning to take root, And with the right policies, New Zealand has the potential to diversify its economy and find new avenues for growth. But this transition will not be easy. The country must tackle its structural issues head-on, address its dependence on the real estate market, and invest in industries that can provide long-term, sustainable growth. The question is whether New Zealand can move quickly enough to avoid becoming another cautionary tale. In the end, New Zealand's experience serves as a critical reminder. Success is never guaranteed, and the pursuit of progress requires constant adaptation. For those countries facing similar challenges, the lesson is clear. Complacency is the enemy of long-term prosperity. New Zealand's future, like that of many nations, depends on its ability to embrace change and innovation. Can New Zealand overcome its economic crisis and emerge stronger, or will it continue down the path of stagnation? The next few years will determine the answer, and with it, the future of a nation that once seemed destined to remain a paradise.